Hello everyone. Just gonna do some testing of the scooter tonight. We're running the Rick Friedrich, the way I understand Rick Friedrich, and he has like a many videos on it, but one of them is called I think it's called Simple Free Energy, and he explains it very well. So I'm just running that circuit on the scooter, and we're just gonna do some testing tonight. Tonight I brought some tools. So if the scooter breaks down, I'm hoping I can fix it. Okay, let's see how this goes. Just making some camera adjustments. Just got some of the paperwork here. Some printouts of Rick Friedrich circuits. So this is the voltage of the batteries being charged, and this is the individual 12 volt batteries wired in parallel. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's the voltage of the batteries wired in parallel, and this is the voltage, I don't know if you can see that. It says 39 volts. That's the voltage of the batteries wired in series, which is 3 batteries wired in series. Right now I'm doing 3 batteries in series and 4 in parallel. Rick shows it in one of his videos. He shows it just 2 12 volt batteries wired in series and 2 12 volt batteries wired in parallel, and then running the load through the positive that charges one set to the other set, and then the negatives between those 2 sets connected together. I needed more voltage, so I'm doing 3 batteries in series. Let's see if you can see. I might have to move these papers here. Yeah, I'll move those papers so you can see better. Okay. Just going to adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, so the scooter is slowing down. So I'm gonna wire the batteries and I'm gonna send the charge back to the batteries that were the power station. Basically, 14.26 volts is the power of the batteries that were just now receiving the charge, which is these four. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all in parallel. The three batteries that are in series, which is this front battery and these two up here that are in series, as you can see here, and then this one going to the negative, positive to negative, and then this is splitting the positive between these three and these four. White wire, going through the motor, going through my light switch, which is that's my on and off switch. So now I'm going to send the power back to these batteries. And Rick Friedrich explains this as, let's see if I can show this to you. Oh, can I get it in there? Let me see if I can get it in the shot here without unmounting the camera. Rick Friedrich calls it the loving giving path. Because when you give a charge, when you charge another set of batteries with a set of batteries, and this is the way that I understand Rick Friedrich to be explaining it, you can run a motor for free. It doesn't take any power from the batteries to run the motor. And if you want to understand how that works, I would recommend to study Tom Bearden. We have a playlist. If you're new to the channel, we have a playlist called Thomas Bearden. I think there's like 6 or 7, maybe 8 videos on there. He explains how, basically my understanding is, I'm still learning, but when you have a positive and a negative, energy, the way I understand it, is that energy will just flow into your circuit. It flows into it. And it's only when you do the selfish, unthankful circuit, which is what Rick Friedrich is, the way he words it. When you do this circuit, let's see if it shows here. This kind of circuit it drains the battery at the rate of powering the bulb, whereas this kind of circuit, you're using one battery to charge another, and the bulb doesn't, it just basically it runs for free. And Rick Friedrich explains that in elementary physics, that's not understood. Generally speaking, in elementary physics, that's not understood. So when someone says you can't get free energy, my girlfriend and I like to say that we're not trying to get free energy, or it's not, how do we say it? We say basically it's not a free lunch, but it's more like all you can eat. So you pay a small fee, and then it's all you can eat. And that's kind of how I relate. That's how I relate to this circuit, because you need some energy flowing from one set of batteries to another, but the all you can eat aspect of it is that you can run the load free of charge. So to understand that, study Tom Bearden, study Rick Friedrich. And I'm still learning myself, so I'm going to go ahead and rewire this. So let me start with turning off my meters and disconnecting the meters, just to get those wires out of the way. So the scooter started to slow down, and so I'm going to rewire this and send the power back to the other batteries. Let's see how I'm going to do this. I'm going to start by unhooking my meter wires. Okay, so this is a meter wire. And this is a meter wire. And I do plan to simplify the wiring with switches, so I don't have to keep rewiring this every single time I want to. Because basically what I'm changing is I'm setting the if I say the charging batteries go in parallel, which is the low voltage, parallel is just keeping all these at 12 volts, and then wiring 12 volt batteries in series, which brings voltage up, and that's what allows the energy, I think. I don't even know how to say it exactly, but I'm going to say it basically as I understand it, and I'm still learning. That allows the charge to be transferred to the other set of batteries at the rate of powering the load, so if there's a bigger load, it'll charge, I guess, with more amperage, or it'll send more power over. So the motor I'm using is a 24 volt 500 watt motor on the scooter right now as the drive motor. Okay, let's see. So these wires, just disconnecting my meters. That's a meter, and this is a meter. Okay, so those are out of the way. Okay, so I've decided that right now, when I'm rewiring, I'm just going to take all the wires off and start brand new each time, so I don't get confused. Because I don't want to hook up the wrong wire and then melt my one of my wires here, because it will. If you ever cross the positive and the negative of a battery, it throws a pretty big spark. And if you have 3 batteries in series, which is what we have here, these two and this one, that's even more voltage. So I think the spark will be even much bigger. Okay, so let's take these off. Let's take these off. And let me disconnect all of my parallel batteries. I'm thinking of putting switches between, and I think when I actually do it is when I'll figure out how to do it exactly, but I'm planning to put switches, I guess approximately 2 switches between each set of batteries, or each battery. And each switch will have an on and off, and one switch will be for series, and another switch will be for parallel. So I'm planning to just turn, so the equivalent of taking all the wires off, if I have switches between every single battery, if I have 2 switches between each battery, I think that's how I'll do it. I have to still do it to see if that's going to work. The equivalent of taking all the wires off would be turning all the switches off, and then turning on the series, and then turning on the parallel for the other set. Series for one set, parallel for the other set, then turning them all off, and then turn this set to series and the other set to parallel. Just reversing the way I switch it. I think that might be easier than taking off these wires every single time. But I'm just starting out. I'm really just learning about this, but I'm excited about it. And so far the testing that I've done has been very successful in terms of running the scooter by transferring the charge from one set of batteries to the other and just keep going back and forth. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just doing more of that testing. I've had the scooter break down a little bit. I've had mechanical things break on it. The sprocket, the pin that holds the sprocket on the motor, that came out once, and I found a nail in the road, literally in the road. like cemented into the road. I bent it back and forth till it broke out, and I put that in the hole that connects the motor to the drive shaft, the motor shaft, and then I used my key, literally my home key, to bend that bent nail straight enough to be able to put it all the way through there. It worked, and ultimately I was able to get back home, and I have some extra spare pins now with me, and I have a few tools with me too that I can use if I need them, because that time I didn't have any tools other than my key, and my key was the tool I needed to. It was the tool that was the key to fixing the scooter. Okay, so these were in series and these were in parallel, so now we're going to reverse it, and let's do parallel. So now we're going to do these three parallel, which is keeping the voltage the same as one battery. So I'm going to hook this on here. So parallel is positive to positive. And then positive to positive. Okay, positive to positive. And then all the negatives go together, so I'll connect negative to negative. And if I make a mistake, it'll make a big spark. But I'm going to do my best not to make a mistake. Oh, wait a second. I'm going to go ahead and go to this negative because it's close to this battery. So negative, let me go here first. Negative to negative, and then negative again. This negative to the next negative, to the next negative. Okay, so now these three batteries that were in series, giving us approximately 36 volts before, now they're in parallel, and these will be the ones receiving the charge from the other batteries that were previously receiving the charge. So loving giving path, Rick Friedrich calls it that, and it's a good. I like those words because of what it's doing. When you give the charge from one battery, from a set of batteries to another set of batteries, you run the motor or the load for free. Rick Friedrich has a video titled Simple Free Energy, and he explains very well how to do this. And I watched that video, and I watched some other videos of Rick Friedrich, and I'm excited about testing and experimenting with what he teaches, and keeping in mind what Tom Bearden talks about as well, in terms of understanding how circuits work and how to allow them to be more efficient, basically not letting a circuit short itself out, which is, from what I understand, what a circuit is typically doing. So this is moving away from that and towards a more efficient way of wiring a load, whether it be a light bulb or a motor. Okay, so now we want to, so those are in parallel. Now we need to wire these in series. Okay, so let me think how I'm going to do this, because I had 3 batteries in series and I had 4 in parallel. And I'm just thinking right now, do I want to do 4 in series into 3 in parallel? That's a lot of voltage. I can try that. Let me start out with just 3 though. And if I don't have enough power, I can try adding another one. That's one of the things I don't know about yet, is how high can I go on the voltage of the power station side, if I call it that, the side that's in series. How high can I go in voltage? Can I go, so Rick Friedrich talks about, he shows 24 volts having 2 batteries in series. I'm doing 3 batteries in series. Can I do 4? Can I do 5? Can I do 6? I mean, I wouldn't go that high. I don't think I would need to go more than 4 for this scooter, because 48 volts would be pretty fast. But it's just some questions I have, and I think I might find the answers to those questions by continuing to test this system with those voltages. Rick Friedrich talks about how we can have, for example, 24 volts, 2 batteries wired in series, and up to 300 volts worth of batteries on the charging side. But what I don't know is that only if you're using like the pulse motor, like one of his pulse motors, and I know people convert those, and Rick Friedrich, he may even have some videos that teach how to convert those. I need to watch those still or see if I can find those. But he did make it clear that with the basic simple free energy, he calls it, you don't need, you know, the pulse. I don't think you need the pulse motor and all those things. I'm just using a regular scooter motor that's a 500 watt 24 volt, and it's a brushed motor. It's not even a brushless motor. It's a brushed motor. So, you know, I'm using a brushed 24 volt 500 watt motor, and whether I'm using that or I want to just power a light bulb, if I'm transferring the energy from one set of batteries to another, my understanding is you charge the set at the rate of powering the light bulb or the motor, and that can just be a regular, you know, DC direct current, you know, brushed motor. And but I want to continue testing and experimenting and learning for myself also, to see and understand more about what's being shared by Rick Friedrich and many others that are also teaching these ways of using energy. Okay, so let me go ahead and wire these in series, which will be, so I was using yellow for my series wires. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. So let's, series is going to be right here. Let's go negative, to positive, and again negative to positive. Maybe I'll try 4 batteries. I haven't tried 4 yet. I'm just curious what that'll do. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I think the scooter might be really fast. Okay, so the scooter, here's what could happen. The scooter... the scooter, for one, might be, because this is the 24 volt motor, so I'm going to run 48 volts through it. Well, up to 48 volts through it. The scooter might be very, very fast, and I also don't know what it could do to the batteries. I don't know if I could hurt the batteries if I go that high a voltage, but we can find out by trying it. So let's go ahead and, I don't know, maybe, let me think, I'm not sure how I want to do this. 4 batteries, I mean, one thing I can do is, because the scooter usually starts out pretty good with 3 batteries, and then as the batteries start to drain more, you know, they're filling up these other 3 batteries, but as these start to drain more, the scooter will slow down. And maybe at that time, I can plug in the 4th battery to help speed this. That would get the voltage up a little bit to give me more speed. Maybe I'll do it that way. I don't know. I'm leaning back toward 4 batteries right now in series. Let me just do that. I just want to see what it does. Now, just an update on the motor. Let me see what I have here first. I gotta focus on what I'm doing. I'll get back to the motor because I want to tell you something about that in a moment, about the pin that was in there. because now that I'm running higher voltage, that can also be, this can be something that can be of concern, and I'll come back to that. Okay, I'm just looking at how I have it. So these are going in series right now. Okay, so let me see. Splitting the positive. Series is positive to negative. Okay, so negative to positive, negative to positive. This is the negative. What's my white wire doing? Let's split in the oh yeah, right, of course. So this wire comes off. This was my motor. That's my motor. That's where I split it. Let me just put that to the side right now. Okay, so negative to positive. Let me take this off too. This is our splitting the positive wire right there. Take that off. Okay, so we're going to do another series here. So we're going to have 4 batteries. Now I'm going to have to keep an eye on battery temperature to make sure I'm not overheating the batteries, because I'm sending, basically I'm going to be sending 48 volts, and this is just my own experimentation. Rick Friedrich does not say to do this in videos that I've seen. I haven't seen all his videos though, but I'm going to be sending 48 volts in series into 3 batteries in parallel, which will be reading as 12 volts, but that voltage is going to, those are going to be the ones getting charged. Let's see what this does. We're still running otherwise the same circuit, it's just the number of batteries will be different here. And I'm doing this for the purpose of trying to get more power to the motor. I want to see if it can go a little faster. Okay, negative to positive, that gives us series again. So now we have 4 batteries in series. And then my green wire is connecting the negatives between the 2 sets. And my splitting the positive. Okay, where is our positive? Our positive is let's see. As I start to get tired, this becomes a little bit difficult to do. Get a little tired. It's been a long day. It's been a good day. Every day's a good day. Okay, let's see. Let me see here. Let's take some readings. Okay, so I have, oh, I see what's happening. So these are, this is my positive. Okay. So in these 1, 2, 3, 4, this is my positive, this is my negative. We have the negative connected. Let me move this one down here a little bit. The negative is connected to the negative on the parallel batteries and to the batteries that are in series. And the positive here is going to connect to the batteries that are in series. Okay, positive. I'm using a white wire. The white wire in this experiment, and I think in the last video I had it there as well, I'm using the white wire as an indicator of the wire that I'm using that is the positive that connects the 2 sets of batteries. And that wire runs through my light switch, which is how I control the scooter. It's just literally an on and off switch, so I'm getting full power or not, or no power. Because at this time I don't know how to slow the speed down with this kind of circuit. I don't know if I can use, what I can use to control, like as a speed control. So this white wire connects the 2 sets of batteries together, positive to positive. So we're splitting the positive. Rick Friedrich calls it splitting the positive, and that's the way it's spoken of with people that experiment with these circuits. And that wire runs through the lights, my on and off switch, which is at the handlebars up here, and then it runs through the motor. So that's that side, and that means that the other side of that will go to any positive of the batteries that are in series. Okay, now I'm going to give you the update on the motor. Now that I'm running this much power through this system. Okay, what else can happen is the wires can get hot. I have to keep an eye on that too, because we're running higher voltage now. Okay, so we're trying something new. Okay, so this is we're doing 4 batteries in series, charging 3 batteries in parallel. Okay, that's something different. I haven't done this before. And this is not, as I know it, this is not recommended by anyone. No one's saying, I haven't found anyone to say not to do it, but I also haven't looked very hard for that. Like, does anybody say not to do this? Meaning 4 batteries in series into 3 batteries in parallel. Usually it's 2 batteries in series and 2 batteries in parallel, and then Rick mentioned you can run more on the side being charged. And all the batteries you add to the charging side is basically you're just getting more charge. So it's like, again, it's like the all-you-can-eat idea. Put a little in and get a lot out. Okay, so let's see what this does. Okay, so what I was mentioning with the motor. Okay, so I went and bought some pins for the motor that would let me take the nail out that I had put in there, or whatever I had in there, because actually I think the nail actually came out too eventually, and then I put something else in there just to get me home. When I tried to get everything out, it seemed like I got everything out of that, the sprocket and the hole where the pin goes through on the motor. I took everything out of there that I saw, but then I tried to slide the gear off and it was stuck. So the gear was stuck on there, and I was going to pull the motor off and try to force the gear off and figure out why it's stuck. Well, first of all, try to figure out why it's stuck and see if I can get it off somehow, you know, preferably without forcing. But my girlfriend was mentioning that, you know, well, don't I want it to be stuck on there? And I'm like, yeah. She was like, well, maybe you can just ride it like that, and if it loosens up, you can put the proper pin in it. So that's what I'm doing. But now, and the reason I mention that is now that I'm running much higher voltage, the scooter might be a lot faster, and it might break that gear loose right away. So I might be doing quick repairs here on the motor. But let's see what this does. Let me make sure I got the direction correct here. And when I say that, I think by having, depending on what side, Rick Friedrich says you want to run, if I recall correctly, the positive, I guess it would be the positive from the batteries in series would go into the negative of the motor. And I don't know if that's more important with the pulse motors, which I'm still learning what that is, because I'm still learning about all this. But I'm just running a brushed motor. So for my motor, if I run, depending on how I run the wire, which one of these, I think, if I recall correctly, which one of these I hook to, you know, let's say I hook the series side, whether I hook this into the positive or the negative of my brushed DC motor will determine which direction the wheel turns. So I'm just going to put it on whatever lets the wheel turn forward, as the way I'm doing it. But let me just do a quick test and make sure the wheel's spinning. Yes. Yeah, and the wheel's turning the correct way. Okay, so we're ready to go. We are ready for takeoff here. I do have some gloves to keep my hands warm, but I'm not going to wear those yet because I don't feel like I need them yet. Okay, 48 volts in series, and four batteries in series, and 3 batteries in 3 batteries in parallel right now. So basically, just to go over this real quick, basically before I rewired this just recently right now, these 3 batteries were in series, charging these 4 batteries, and now these 4 batteries are in series, and they're going to charge these 3 batteries that are in parallel. That's basically what we changed. Negative of this set of batteries connected to the negative of this set of batteries, and then the positive runs through the load, and it's also running through a light switch, so I can control if I want the scooter to stop or go. And I'm still working on or researching and figuring out how I can more subtly control the speed. So I can go slow, a little bit faster, instead of just on-off. Because this kind of circuit where we're just splitting the positive, I'm not sure how to do that with this kind of circuit. It's just one wire. Okay, so I'm going to check my voltage of so I'll hook this one up to, so I'll have the Craftsman meter connected to the batteries in parallel. So that'll help us see what the voltage is doing there. And I have to keep an eye on temperature of the wires because we're dealing with higher voltage now. And then 48 volts. This is the highest I've done. And I'm doing that for the purpose of seeing if I can get more speed from the motor. Also just to see what happens, to see what that does. Let's turn this meter on. This meter has a light. This one does not have a light that I know of. Okay, so these batteries right now are at 12.13 volts. That voltage is going to go way up. I don't know if that's bad for the batteries usually, and if it's different when you're doing this kind of circuit, but Rick Friedrich has done this with his batteries a lot, and from what he said is what happens to the batteries when you run this kind of circuit is many people have told him, and then I think he's also experienced himself, if I recall correctly, that sometimes the voltage of the batteries can go up higher. It can just have more capacity. And I think that, and this is just my own, I'm not certain this is to be true, but if I understand correctly, I think it may have something to do with, there's two different kind of energies. There's a positive energy and a negative energy. So it's almost like doubling your fuel tank size because there's two different kind of energies there. If I understand it correctly, I'm still learning, so I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it feels like that has there's something to that, and I'm just saying it in my own words. But I'll just be happy if I can extend the range of the scooter by charging the batteries, sending the battery charge back and forth, and running the motor at no consumption. So that's how I'm kind of looking at this. Is I'm just excited about running learning how to run the scooter in a more efficient way. Okay, so let's see. I want to read the voltage of the batteries in series as well, which will mean putting this. So we'll run the Milwaukee meter. This meter here, I'll hook that there, and I'm going to need an extension for this negative, I think, here. Let's see, I got another wire here, got some wires. I'm going to get a black wire to extend my meter wire. So I can reach the other negative over there. So I think if I had switches between the batteries, where I can just switch between series and parallel, I think that would be a lot faster. I think I'm going to look into that more. It's something I'm looking into, and I'm looking for some switches that will help me do that. So then I'll go to this negative here. Okay, yeah, we're at 53 volts with these four 12-volt batteries in series. And the low batteries, the three batteries that are low now at 12.13 volts, that's the average voltage for the three batteries because these are in series. Those will be receiving the charge. So that voltage will go way up when I'm sending the charge through the motor from positive of one set of batteries to the positive of the other set. Okay, I'm just putting my wires away. don't know if you can see this voltage, but it's saying 12.14 right now. Okay, let's go ahead and run this scooter. See what it does. Okay, we are going much, much faster. I'm going to close my jacket because it's cold. The greater speed has increased the amount of air that's cold air that's hitting my body. And it's cold. a little cold, so I'm going to put my gloves on. The scooter's definitely much faster with the higher voltage on the series side. So we have 4 batteries in series. That higher voltage is much quicker. I'm going to go ahead and put the gloves on. Keep my hands warm. So this is going very well. Very happy. Okay, here we go. 47.53 volts on the series side, 12.84 on the parallel side, which is the side being charged. Okay. Okay, so it looks like the scooter has slowed down. Everything's working really well. So I don't know if it's more that these batteries in parallel, the ones being charged, are full now, or if the batteries in series are depleted, or both. These are depleted and these are full, but the current or the energy flowing from, I'll say energy flowing from the batteries in series to the batteries in parallel has slowed down, and that's why the motor is slowing down. That's what I'm going to say right now. I don't know how else to understand it at this point in time. So now is the time that we rewire. We switch the wires around, and now the ones that were being charged will be the ones powering the other set of batteries, or charging the other set of batteries. So right now these four are in series, and I'm going to wire these in parallel now, and I'm going to wire the ones that were being charged. I'm going to wire those in series and use those to charge the other batteries. So it's just sending the charge back and forth, sending it back and forth, back and forth. And the way that Rick Friedrich explains it, from what I recall and understand, and please see for yourself by watching his videos on YouTube, is that ordinarily if you could run, let's say you run these 2 batteries here or 3 batteries, and it gives you a certain amount of run time, if we say it that way, or distance, or however you want to word it, versus sending the charge over to another set of batteries, running the motor for free, and then sending that charge back. And the way Rick explains it in more than one video is that if you could send that charge back and forth, let's say 10 times, use this set of batteries to charge this set, and then this set to charge that set, and that set to charge that set, and just go back and forth. Let's say you can do that approximately 10 times, if you could do that. Would that be better than if we were just running the 3 batteries and drained them once, and then had to charge those batteries with a regular charger? So it sounds good to me, and I've been enjoying the experience of running the scooter, sending the charge back and forth between the batteries, and I'm going to continue testing that and learning more about it from testing it and just hands-on, you know, wiring it and seeing what it does. And like just now, that was a new test. I had never tested running 4 batteries in series, charging 3 batteries, and I don't know if that's okay to do, but in my experience now, it seemed like it worked very well. I was just trying something different to get more speed. I was just trying to use higher voltage. So let me go ahead and disconnect all the wires, and I'll start over again with our wiring here. Okay, ooh, it looks like this wire may have gotten hot because it melted together. Okay, I didn't notice that when I was running the scooter, so I'll have to keep a closer eye on temperature. But these 2 wires, that's basically, it looks like they got hot enough to that the outside melted together. Let's see if I can pull them apart, because these weren't stuck together like that before. Okay, that did expose this wire a little bit when I pulled that apart. I don't know if you can see that. So I think I'll put that one away. I don't want to risk that causing any problems. I am wondering why it got hot, and if it was, I'll have to pay closer attention to this. I'm guessing it's the high voltage. You know, I also think that I'm just disconnecting my meters right now, that if there's a way that I can slow down the scooter speed-wise, because right now I'm just full power or off. It's like on and off, on and off, on or off. Basically with my light switch, I'm using a switch, basically a light switch, which is power on or power off, to power this circuit. And if I could control that power more, then I think that could help keep temperature down if the wires are getting hot. Now these are also very, very thin wires. The gauge of the wire is very thin, so it may just require a thicker wire. That could just be what I need. I'm checking motor temperature. I just touched the motor, and the motor is not hot. It's just a little bit warm, so the motor's okay. Okay, so yeah, just the wires. Looks like these two wires got the wires that were connecting the batteries in series. They got a little hot, and I think that has more to do with the gauge of the wire being too thin, too small of a wire for what I'm doing. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me disconnect my meters. Disconnecting all the wires from everything, so I can start over. Okay, so these were in parallel. So these are going to be now in series up here. I'm going to put these in series. I'm going to wire those three in series now. Series is positive. Okay. Series is positive to negative. Let me take this. This is our splitting the positive wire. Oh, maybe I can leave it there for now. Positive to negative, and then I should disconnect this. I don't know where I'm going to put that at the moment. I have to go one step at a time with this. Positive. So positive to negative, and then positive to negative. Those are going in series. And then this is our split the positive wire. This one's now going to go here. And the other positive, let's see, these are in series. The other positive will go to this plug down here. Okay, so this positive will go to one of these positives. And so these will get wired in, these will be now wired in parallel. Okay, so this is series, this is parallel. So all of these positives go together. That's parallel when all the positives connect together. So I'll connect that. And positive. Oops. Turn this around. This positive. I'm thinking now, I don't know why I didn't get a thicker wire for these, but I know now that I need a thicker wire, because this is the gauge of this is just too thin. I don't remember what gauge it is, but it's very thin wire. So when I had the 4 batteries in series and I was charging the 3 batteries in parallel, and negative of one set connected directly to the negative of the other set of batteries, and then the positive split between my light switch, which was my power switch, and then the motor, with the positive of each set of batteries running through that motor and through the light switch, the series side got hot. So I know I need a stronger gauge, which is a lower number. Okay, positive. This is the parallel sides, a positive to positive. Rick Friedrich does point out that everyone doesn't get necessarily the same results because batteries they're in different states of condition. Even if they're brand new, it's not always known how long that battery's been on the shelf or what condition it's in. But it seems to me, from what I understand, is when you run this kind of circuit, the batteries like it. Like it can expand the voltage range that the batteries can handle. That's what it looked like to me from what I understand. I'm still learning about this, but you could study this yourself and confirm that for yourself on Rick Friedrich's channel on YouTube. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3. Let's hook the negatives together. So this is doing the parallel circuit here. So going from now negative to negative, which is here. Negative to negative. And then negative again to the negative of the next battery. It's interesting because this is literally the only thing I'm changing is the battery that's the power station side. I'm calling it that. My girlfriend called it the power station side. I think that's a great way to describe it. So the batteries that are acting as the power station side, those are wired in series. The set of batteries that's being charged through the load, which is through the motor, is wired in parallel. And then when you switch that around, when you just change the wires, you literally take the wires that were wired in parallel and you wire in series, and the wires that were wired in series, the batteries that were wired in series, you wire in parallel. And that's what I'm doing here. It's as Rick Friedrich explained it, it's simple, free energy. And even though it's simple, I still have a lot to learn, but I also appreciate that there is a great simplicity to it, really. And I realize that this is really a higher physics experiment, which I have a lot to learn about. But I figure that the way I'm looking at it is, while I'm learning about it, I can enjoy the benefits of practicing the circuit, if I say it that way. Which is just using the circuit, learning with it, trying it. And there's so much learned from actually doing something. Like when you I find that when I reading is wonderful and great, and talking to people is really great. Learning from others. The purpose of the conversations and the study is so that I can make something that I can interact with and learn from. And that's the purpose of the conversations. It's the purpose of the research. It's the purpose of the learning. It's so that I can build something, make something from what I've learned that I can learn more from. Something I can build that will teach me something I didn't know. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have 3 in series. Let me see. Okay, so right now we have, I'm sorry, these are in parallel. So we have 1, 2, 3 in parallel, and we have these 3 in series right now. Let me do a test to make sure that the motor's spinning the correct way. Yep, the motor's spinning the correct way. And I'm just thinking right now, I'm thinking about something that Tom Bearden was talking about. And we have a playlist of Thomas Bearden, on the channel. And I might understand 1% of what Tom Bearden talks about, but I'm doing my best to learn more than that 1% of what he knows, what he understands. And that may be a slow process, but as I recall, he had mentioned, and if I understand and recall this correctly, that the energy that powers a circuit, I don't think, from what he said, and he seems to understand this thoroughly, like very, very well. Even Rick Friedrich was quoting a little bit and also talking about some of Tom Bearden's research, and pointing out that he doesn't necessarily agree with everything that Tom knows or understands, but that there's some things that Tom understands about the circuits that seem to resonate with Rick Friedrich, and I'm doing my best to understand as well. So if I understand correctly and recall correctly, Tom Bearden talks about the energy that powers a circuit is not necessarily coming, and I'm putting this in my own words, it's not necessarily coming from the battery, but that the battery is creating what Tom Bearden calls the dipole. And I understand that to be a positive and negative close together like this. Like this battery has a positive and it has a negative. And when you have that, energy from the vacuum, which is, if I understand correctly, energy from the vacuum is also referred to as 0-point energy, or what permits over unity, or what charges matter, the atoms and molecules of everything we see and everything that we are. So if I just refer to that as energy from the vacuum, and because I believe, I understand that to be the way Tom Bearden states it, but please research Tom Bearden for yourself, because it's been a while it's been some time since I've studied Tom Bearden, and I've just been experimenting on the scooter a lot, so I might be getting some of the words wrong, but please do research him for yourself if you want to learn more. But I understand him to be saying that the energy that powers a circuit does not come from the battery. It actually flows into the circuit from the vacuum, and that's how it actually works. The battery is constantly creating the dipole, which is the positive and negative. It's trying to maintain that and the circuits that we use kill the dipole. They kind of, how do I say it? The batteries that we use, they stop that dipole. They stop it. They kind of put a stop. They kind of stop it, and then the battery brings it back. Like that's the energy of the battery being used up. So the battery holds energy, but it uses all its energy just to maintain that positive and negative charge, to maintain that, because it keeps getting shorted out in the way the circuits are wired. So when, and Rick Friedrich refers to that as the selfish, unthankful circuit, which is basically, and I don't know if I can show this to you without moving the camera, because I have the camera mounted on the scooter, but this is an example of a circuit that basically stops the dipole. It stops it, if I understand correctly, because it's shorting it out. It's hooked up to itself, and it discharges the battery at the rate of powering the light bulb. And then, so Rick Friedrich talks about the loving giving path, and that's where you give the charge from one battery to another by splitting the positive. And so if this is two batteries, two 12-volt batteries wired in series, and this is two 12-volt batteries wired in parallel, and you connect the negatives together, and you split the positive, which is the positive that goes from one set of batteries to the other, and you can actually light a bulb or run a motor, even though you're just using two positives. And what happens is, you charge, if this set of batteries is in series and this is in parallel, you can charge, if this battery's dead, if these two batteries are drained and these two are full, you can charge with this battery, you can charge this battery, this set of batteries, at the rate of powering the light bulb or the motor, and that's really interesting. And once you do that, you can send that charge back by wiring these in series and these in parallel, and then you send the charge back to these, and you can just keep going back and forth a lot. So it's a more efficient way of using energy, and I feel that this circuit that Rick Friedrich is sharing is an excellent expression of what I understand Tom Bearden to have been talking about. And I'm trying to learn for myself how this works by using the circuit and learning from it, by becoming familiar with it. Okay, so one thing I was thinking, I haven't hooked up the meters yet since I did the switch the batteries around with the wires. I was wondering of trying something here. This is what I'm thinking. I still have a lot to learn, but I was thinking, okay, so this battery here, this battery is one of the 4 batteries that I was running in series to charge these 3 batteries. Right now I'm not using that battery because I wired these 3 batteries in series, and I'm going to use these 3 to charge. I'm sorry, wait, let me see what I'm doing here. I'm getting this backwards. Okay, so right now these are in series. Okay, so I was running these in series, these 4 in series, and these 3 in parallel. Excuse me. And now I'm switching it around. I've wired these 3 in series, and these are in parallel now. But I'm thinking to myself, do I want to charge 4 batteries? Like, do I want to have these 3 in series like they are, charging 4 batteries or charging 3 batteries? That's one question I'm thinking about right now. Another thing I'm thinking of, keeping in mind the idea of knowing that batteries don't provide the power for the circuit, I don't know if this thinking that I'm looking at right now, that's coming from some of Tom Bearden's research, if it applies to the way I'm using the circuit. I don't know. But I'm thinking, since we know that batteries are not providing power to the circuit, I'm thinking, I liked how fast the scooter was when I had 4 batteries charging the 3 batteries, because the 4 batteries were, and I could have done 4 batteries charging 4 batteries. The only reason I didn't do that, by the way, because I do have 8 batteries here altogether, it's just that I'm not using one of those batteries, because I'm using one of the batteries specifically to keep my there's a 12 volt, I think it's called a DC to DC converter. It converts DC to AC, and that lets me keep my cell phone charged so I can keep the stream going. So I'm using one of my 8 batteries just to charge the DC to DC converter, or yeah, DC. I guess it's a DC to AC converter, pure sine wave, and so that's one battery's being used for that, because I don't want my stream to stop, because it did once. A couple tests ago, I lost my battery, power died, and my battery depleted, and the stream stopped. So to help prevent that, I'm using one of my batteries for that. But I actually do want to look into getting maybe a larger battery for the cell phone, or just using maybe one of my drill batteries to power the phone. So I'm looking at other ways to power the phone, and then I can actually do 4 batteries charging 4 batteries, and I do want to do that. But back to what I'm doing here, I'm not sure if I want to. What I'm considering right now is I have these 3 batteries that are charged right now. Could I connect this battery here, this one here, this is one of the batteries that are depleted right now. But if I connect that in series with the other 3 that are full, that were just recently charged from running them, the way I was running the circuit, if I run that depleted battery in series with it, would that give me more voltage, more power, and then charging these 3 batteries? I don't know. It's something I'm considering trying right now. I'm just thinking about that. I'm just sharing my thoughts with you. The other thing I can do is I can just keep these 3 full batteries in series like they are, and I could charge with those 3 these 4 batteries, or I can just charge 3 batteries. So I have some choices here. So I'm just thinking about how I want to do this. I'm just thinking about this now. Okay, while I think about that, I think I'll wire my meters back up. So I have one meter connected to one set of batteries. So since these batteries are in series, I'm going to go ahead and, oh yeah, so I think I've been hooking, so right now I'm going to hook up this meter to these batteries in parallel. That's what I'll do with this one. So these 3 are in parallel right now, and that will be this small meter here. Okay, so these are showing 11.8 volts. That's the average voltage for these 3 batteries, so these are pretty low right now. These are 12 volt batteries, 12 volts, 10 amp hour, lead acid batteries, sealed SLA batteries, sealed lead acid. Just a regular little battery. I think they're 120 watt hours. So that would be 120 watts for 1 hour, and the battery would be depleted if you ran one of these. Okay, so let's hook up this set. Let's see, this set to, okay, so I got one on those. This goes to the series battery, so I'm going to connect this to the positive here. And then the other side, the negative wire, I'll connect, so that's the positive, and so the negative is here, so I'll go to the negative here. That's going to give us our voltage of the series batteries that are full. Okay, we're at 38.11 volts. Oh, 38.8. 38.7. Okay, it's going down. Okay. 38.6. Seems to be staying there. 38.6. Okay. Let's put some light there. 38.6. Okay, so 38.6, 38.5. That's these three batteries in series. And then I have these three batteries in parallel. So these three batteries will be charging these three batteries. Negative is connected, negative of one set connected to the negative of the other set. And the positive, which is the white, this is my positive that I split the positive. The positive from the series batteries connects to the positive of the parallel batteries, which is here, and that wire that goes from the positive of one set to the positive of another set, that wire is cut and connected to the motor, and it runs the motor with no negative. There's no negative there. I think I'm always going to say how neat that is because I just think it's neat. I always thought a motor had to have a positive and a negative. So, okay, now the other thing that's in that wire is also my light switch, which is I'm using to stop, to make the scooter stop or go. So there's a light switch wired to that, which is just either interrupting the circuit or completing the circuit. Okay, so let's make sure the motor's turning the right way. Yeah, I think I tested that earlier. I'm just remembering that now. Okay, let's see. Okay. Well, I'm still thinking about this battery here. What I could do with this? I feel like I want to try putting it in series. Here's a concern I have though. If I wire this depleted battery, which is not connected to anything right now, if I wire that battery into these other three batteries in series, I don't know if that would, if the energy from the other three batteries would go into this one. A little bit of it would go into this one, because I don't want that to happen. I want all the energy to transfer over to the other three batteries through the motor, and at the rate of powering the motor, basically, which is the way it works. So I may just leave this like this for now. Let me think, though. Well, let me see how the scooter feels right now, how the power feels with just the three batteries in series. Let me see how that is. Oops, almost forgot that. running for 1 moment. Okay, voltage of the batteries being charged that are in parallel is 11.89. The 3 batteries in series that are charging those batteries are at 37.57 volts. So these 3 are in series and they're charging these 3 in parallel. And these 3 are charging those 3 batteries at the rate of powering the motor, and the idea is that the motor doesn't actually take any of that energy from the batteries. To understand that, and Rick Friedrich refers to it as higher physics. You can study Tom Bearden and Rick Friedrich. Okay, here we go. Among many others. There's many people that understand the system, and it's very interesting. definitely need more voltage. Okay, I think I can do this. That's just my I'm disconnecting the DC to DC converter. I'm almost back to my destination to conclude tonight's testing. Just keeping my voice down because people are sleeping. Okay, let's see. What's the voltage? These are 1218. Let's add a battery to these. I'm also going up a very steep hill here. Let's slow the scooter down a little bit. I definitely want to go with higher voltage though. So in the future I'll make sure I test with higher voltage on both sides, on the parallel and series side, to go at least 48 volts. Okay, for now, let me disconnect the meter. I'm going to add the I'm going to use the battery I was using for the DC to DC converter. I'm going to use that as my fourth battery right now, which is what that battery was meant for. It was meant to be a part of this this circuit where I can run 4 batteries in series and 4 batteries in parallel. I just didn't do it because it was something I was planning to do and hadn't done yet. And then by necessity, I'm now doing because I need higher voltage. Okay, let's connect. Let's see. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need my these. I made these. I don't know if you can see these, yeah. Just soldered these together, and that's what I clip everything on to. So I'm going to put these in the battery that I'm adding to the circuit right now. And then I'll connect negative to negative. And that's to connect the 2 sets of batteries together. And then let's see, negative to positive, and this is just my series. So I'm adding, this will be now 48 volts. Okay, we're at 48 volts, yes. 48 volts. Okay, what are we doing? This one's set to... This one is connected to the batteries that are getting charged. Okay, batteries that are being charged. can. See, this is all stuff that I just need to test to see what works best or what's working for what I'm trying to do, which is have the most power, or to have sufficient power, and to have, I guess, maximum distance, if I say it that way, maximum efficiency, which includes distance. That should give me more power now. I can try that. I think I'm just going to let that charge this is right here. I can wire that one too, I guess. Let me go ahead and wire that fourth one on the receiving side. And we'll go ahead and give some charge to that fourth battery as well. Okay. So that's just going to be receiving side, so we'll have 4 batteries in series and 4 batteries in parallel. So make a positive to positive, secure, and then negative to negative. Okay, let's go negative. Negative. Okay, so right now I have, thank you everyone for the thumbs up and for watching the video. I'm still riding the scooter, we're not done yet. Just keeping my voice down because it's kind of late, I don't want to wake anyone up. 1, 2, 3, I don't think you can see in camera, but there's a battery nearest camera, underneath camera here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our 2 sets. So these 4 in a series giving us 48 volts. These 4 in parallel receiving the charge and charging at the rate of powering the motor and powering the motor at no cost to the batteries. To understand that, study Rick Friedrich on YouTube, and you can find his video, some of his videos by looking underneath this very stream under I think it's about more or more to see more or something like that. Underneath the video, you'll see that we talk about who we're studying, and Rick Friedrich is right on the top at this time right now. And then Tom Bearden and John Searle, Russell Anderson, Gerard Morin, and many others, but we have just a few there. So let's see how we do now. Go ahead and see how the scooter goes. If this hill is too steep for the way I have the scooter wired right now, I don't know how much power I have access to, I might just go back down the hill here and go and take a different path. But let's see what we can do. Just putting my gloves on. Okay, everyone, we made it back to our destination. And the scooter's doing very well. I know for sure that I need more power, so I'm going to look at ways of I guess using in the way that I wire the batteries. I think I'll just go with a higher voltage. That's the way that I know to get more power at this time right now. The motor's a 24 volt, 500 watt motor, and higher voltage, when I wired the batteries in series, on the series side and in higher voltage, it worked very well in terms of giving a lot more power and a lot more speed. So let's see where our voltage is at right now. 46 volts on the 4 batteries in series, and 12.16 volts on the side with the batteries in parallel. When we stopped, I originally had, so in today's test, this last battery here was connected to this DC to DC, or sorry, DC to AC converter to power the phone, so that I wouldn't lose the stream, so that my battery wouldn't die on my phone. And in the end, when I was having trouble getting up that steep hill, I just unhooked this battery from the DC to AC converter, and I put that in series with these 3 batteries that were in series. And then I went ahead and added this battery to the parallel side. So I'm still learning, and I have a lot to learn, and I'm excited about learning. And I enjoy learning from people that like to share what they know. And then I enjoy learning from my own experiments when I'm making sense of what I'm learning from others by experimenting with the things that I like to build. I just want to thank everyone for sharing their knowledge and for watching my video. Have a great night. See you soon. Bye.